And so to remember the essence, nature, the truth of who we are, the true self, we have to come before the mind to the silence and simplicity that just is. No amount of searching and seeking in the world of appearance will bring us to this deep remembering of our own wholeness. To come to freedom is to come to a place of wholeness where there is no dependence upon anything of the external, no expectations of anything in the external. That we find the whole truth of what we are in the silence of being. That we are not looking to things to complete us. And we are not also living in a sense of lack, in a sense that something is missing. And in that, a sense of fear and need. We cannot find what we are longing for in the world appearance that is limited. We cannot find whole happiness in the things and experiences that are limited. We cannot find whole love in people that are limited. The world appearance just doesn't have it. It doesn't have it to give. And we can be so disappointed in people and things and experiences. But the truth is that no one in the human sense has it to give. No one can actually meet our needs for love, to be seen, for intimacy, to be understood, to be heard, because no one has that capacity. Because the nature of a me is that the me is concerned with itself only. It's concerned with selfish gain. It's all about getting what it wants. And so if we are moving in dynamics where every being is really only concerned with themselves, then we're never ever going to find fulfillment in others, because quite simply, other beings do not have it to give. If there is limitation, lack, and a sense of not being enough, there's not enough to share. That's for sure. Certainly not wholeness to share, right? So we cannot complete ourselves in people and relationships and things and the worldly. We can not complete ourselves in experiences, in pleasure. We can only find where we are already complete, where we are already whole. And when we find where we are already whole, the curious thing is there is nothing left but to share your wholeness, because you know that you cannot be diminished or lacking however much of your wholeness you give, however much of your true loving nature you give. There will always be enough. It is never ever being diminished. This is why to come to the being and to come to a surrender, where every moment is somehow an offering to what we are longing for, an offering for what we are longing for. That every moment is somehow keeping in awareness what we are longing for. That we see God in everything, that we see the light in everything and everyone, but we do not expect anything from anyone or anything. And yet there is this willing to, in every moment, offer whatever we are to what we don't know. How can we be an offering? How can we serve? And now, we're not speaking about a service where we are moving in dynamics and in a way giving away power and not living from truth. We're speaking of being the offering and being in service by coming to the being and offering all that we are in the being to the being, to love, coming again and again to the being, to what is true, and resting in this openness of heart, where the only desire that we have is for the deep, abiding knowing of this truth, for the deep remembering that the love that we long for is what we are, and to know this without question, that every moment is an offering to say, whatever it takes, how can I offer more? How can I serve more? How can I say yes and surrender more? And sometimes this is just about having in awareness what we are longing for. Sometimes it could be spoken about repeating the divine names, but we can shift the sense of what this is to just that every moment is a remembering. That as we are eating and drinking and moving in the life, and that we are seeing that light in everything, this too, this too, this too, this too. To see the light shining in everything. And so that we are moving and treating everything and everyone as that love, as that wholeness. We start to open to a more profound way of being by opening up to the possibility of being selfless, of not moving constantly from what the me wants, and not being so absorbed in the me and mine that we are unable to see where we are one. And so really to be the offering, to be in service, to open, to remember, is to open in every moment of how can this moment be closer? How can this moment be a remembering? How can this moment be alive with the silence? How can this moment be shining as the glory, as God? How in this moment can the heart that is ever open be felt, that is ever loving, just love, just listen, just be present, and not need to be heard, not need to have an opinion, not needing to need anything, not needing to not really listen because you just can't wait to get your next words out to speak about yourself, right? It's just to shine the light upon the ways of the human condition. It's not about criticizing ourselves or bringing shame or guilt at all, because these are some of the main contenders for keeping us from this truth. But it is to illuminate, as the light of awareness, the stickiness of the Maya and the ever-changing that cannot be relied upon. What is changing will never ever bring us fulfillment. And yet we put so much energy into the moving changing and trying to gain temporary pleasure for the me. But what if we start to illuminate that mechanism and how futile it is and how much energy goes into trying to please the me? What if we shift that, not by creating a to-do list, of course, but by illuminating our own habits and behaviors, our own habits that are focused around selfish gain, being heard, being seen. Even things like being respected, being honored, right? All of the ways that we are wanting something for the me, so that the me can give meaning and feel confirmed, validated, affirmed by otherness, right? So what if we are to illuminate all of the ways and to invite that in the illumination, how can this moment be a greater offering to what is truly longed for? How can we switch it all around so that we stop worshipping the play of the world and making that where we put all of our attention, that we make that in a way our reality when it's not the true reality? What if we are to switch it around and really make God the reality? Elevate and illuminate in our own lived experience what we are truly longing to be one with. What does that look like without making a plan? Just to open up all of the ways that we distract and pull the attention away, all of the ways that the me is concerned with the me getting what it wants. There is a sticky, tangled web in the way that the ego dynamics work. And of course, we can only really see this when we are free of it. Because when we are not free of it, we are entangled, enmeshed in it. And we're moving. We're moving in this push-pull. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, right? We're moving constantly in this bargaining, this dealing. And the only way to be free of this is to come to the being and illuminate as much as we are able the ways that we are collaborating with that. And to, in the resting in the being, to feel the wholeness, the simplicity, feel the oneness with what we are longing for. And in the oneness with what we are longing for, say yes, and yes, and yes. To be the offering deeper into that. To be aware of that in every moment. To make God, the divine, what we are longing for, the reality, and where we put the attention. To notice that when we hear these words and receive the resonance, that it can be very enlivening, but to be very aware of that in that enlivening, the mind can say, oh, right now, I've got a new project. I can make this all about me being focused upon God, right? But take the me out of it and just feel that enlivenment. Feel where the resonance of truth is felt, and feel that in that there's actually a humbling, and there's a frequency, and this frequency is what you already are, that you don't need to be a me creating a new God project. It's just about being here in the resonance of recognition of what you already are, and the humble openness to just be here empty, to be here one with what is longed for, and to feel the power and simple beauty of just being here in the silence, in the simplicity. And yes, we are illuminating the way that the human mind works. It's not always comfortable for the human mind, but it's not about the human mind. It's not about how the mind is feeling. Again, this is another place that we want to keep shining the light, because the mind loves to express what the mind is thinking, what's happening in the mind, or what does mind think of this? What if we just don't care what the mind thinks about it, right? That we just don't keep giving the mind the space to take up and imagine that it's important. What if we just watch it and hold it in presence, but we're not needing to elevate that again and again, that it doesn't matter what the mind thinks. It's actually when we come to be able to see the mind without needing to give it airtime. Because the one that says, well, the mind thinks, is also the mind, right? That too is the mind. So it's to illuminate that interceptor, the mind dressing up as some kind of authority that's speaking about the mind, and to see that that too is hocus pocus nonsense, and it doesn't really have a place. It's just to keep illuminating what keeps us from this truth, and how glorious it is to revel in this truth. How glorious it is to feel the shift of the attention for the light and the glory of what we are longing for, and the oneness to be God, with God, to feel illuminated and resonating and alive and true and focused upon as the reality. That it feels so beautiful, because when the focus is with what is longed for, it obliterates the me that is wanting things and more experiences. It just enlivens the felt sense where the longing, even if the sense of the longing is for love, for happiness, it doesn't matter. It's to let the longing just be an open longing without aiming it at things. So to be in the longing, just open. And to let this be the reality. To let the attention just keep coming in every possible way to this. That we can make the whole life holy by just having the attention where the being is, where truth is. That we can turn around our misunderstanding and allow the attention to be focused upon real reality, the one reality. So we come to the silence that is before thought, the silence of being that just is, simple and pure and open. And just to feel the simple beauty of just being, the openness, the emptiness, where nothing is wanted, nothing is needed, just being here. Being the aware being that can illuminate the moving, changing, so that we can recognize that the moving, changing is the Maya. The moving, changing is the mind's creation, the projected world. And we navigate it from a different way of seeing. We navigate it as the awareness, the still, silent being that is just naturally aware. There is so much kindness here, so much patience and compassion here, resting in the being. The being wants nothing, the being needs nothing, and yet there is this openness. There is this wholeness, this fulfillment. And when we are resting here, we are not holding back. We're not holding back or needing to protect. And yet we are not moving in conditioned dynamics. We are moving from this deep resting in the being, this deep truth, moving from here. And we move from here, we don't second guess and doubt what is happening. It is obviously the mind that second guesses and doubts. But when we are resting in the being, the knowing of true movement is clear. And there is only one truth. And if there is a deep resting and an unquestionable knowing, then the knowing is that the truth is the same truth for all beings. And whatever is happening is true, regardless of the way that any being might receive, in a way that is not our concern to feel like we have to fix or satisfy or please anyone. But we will find that resting in the being, where we are whole and true and open, that what is the best, let's say, movement, the clearest movement, it will emanate from here. It is not about pleasing others. It is not about moving in those subtle dynamics where essentially we are only ever looking to get our own me needs met. And so there can be this subtlety of watching, where we can have habits to please and to be seen and to move according to certain beliefs that we have to behave in these ways. But the truth is that all of that is created and conditioned and learned in the mind consciousness. And there is a deeper truth. And the deeper truth is unconditioned life, living itself. When we are resting in the being, love is just here. And love knows that we are love, and that all beings belong to the one being, and all beings belong to this love. And the meeting in the love is where we know truth. That we don't need to act out on the surface in certain ways in order to know where we are one in love. We can only know where we are one in love, in the heart, in the being, in the openness. Everything that appears on the surface of life is happening to offer us the reflection so that we can see the areas that are sticky, where we get stuck, where we are afraid, where we are stressed, where we are moving from conditioning and belief. It is all about illuminating as the awareness so that these sticky places can unravel and come unstuck. As they come unstuck, we are more free, unentangled, to live more deeply in the being. When we are living more deeply in the being, we are in the greatest service to all, because the knowing of the oneness is the greatest offering to all. To rest in this knowing, in the oneness, and to stay true is the greatest offering. It is the greatest love. It is to meet in this remembering, in this love, in this knowing. And just to be aware where those kind of dynamics are wanting to play out, and how we can collaborate out of fear and conditioned, learned ways. But everything is inviting us to untangle and free ourselves from the great misunderstanding that we are somehow beholden to anything or anyone in the dream. We can offer the greatest love when we know our own wholeness, because when we know our own wholeness, the love that we offer is not a bargaining tool anymore. It is not needing anything in return. It is just love, loving itself, seeing only itself, and loving only for the sake of love. It is the knowing it does not need anything in return, does not need anyone to behave in a certain way, does not need to be met or seen. Love just loves. And what we are all longing for is that kind of love. That kind of love can only be known when you know yourself as that love. Essentially, we could say, when you can give that love to yourself because you know that you are that love, and you can rest in the wholeness, knowing that you are complete and full in your own divine nature as love, then nothing else is needed. And yet you do not burrow yourself away and keep it all to yourself. This is where you cannot help but share the wholeness that you are, because you know that you cannot be diminished. In fact, the only purpose of the life has to be to love and to share in some way, to serve in some way, because there's nothing else left. And so we are coming to illuminate everything that keeps us from knowing this love that we are in truth. There is a song, a beautiful song, that says, you have to give yourself to love if love is what you're after. And this is what we're speaking about. This is truth. To give yourself to what you are after. To give yourself to love. To give yourself to the glory. To give yourself to what you are longing for. Wholly, wholeheartedly. To just see how much of life is lived away from that. Just to illuminate and see. It is about carrying what we speak of here and what gets illuminated here into the life in every moment. Nothing will change if we imagine that it's just about the meetings. And this is why it is so beautiful that there are other connections happening and sittings and ways of celebrating this glory. Being together in this truth more often, recognizing the great support it is to have Sangha, how precious it is to have Sangha, and what it has taken to get to where we are now. The commitment of everyone, right? That it takes for everyone to be committed and keep showing up and be a part of this, right? And then it starts to really bear fruit and really be enlivening and supportive. So it is this great beauty, this great support that love offers to itself, and that love is pulled to be with itself, to fall deeper into itself, to know itself more. So as these words come, it is always to feel the resonance, where you feel the truth, where you feel the aliveness of your own presence. Because where the aliveness of presence is where you are. Where you are aware is where you are. Where there is just the simple sense of being is where you are in truth. And this is where we are one. This is where we are one in the glory, in the wholeness. You see, to be whole is not a project of trying to work things out in the life. To be whole is to let go of the non-reality and be in reality. And in this, what happens is that we see the life from a different perspective, right? The mind imagines, oh, you're asking me to let go of my life and just be the being? Like my life needs me. But it's about shifting the perspective from being the me that has a my life that's happening to me, where I'm needed because I'm entangled and I'm creating a need to be needed in my life and to be seen a certain way in my life. It's to let go of the perspective without understanding what that is, because the mind can't know what it means to let go of a perspective. But really, we could say it's an invitation to broaden the perspective. It's an invitation to widen the view, to zoom out and see it from a much vaster place as the awareness itself, rather than the narrow, limited vision of the me. And the great glory is that this is freedom from for the one that suffers. This is freedom for the one that is constantly striving to be seen and heard and loved, it actually offers everything that is longed for by the me, but by the infinite load, right? It offers the infinity of love, the infinity of happiness. It offers the immeasurable joy. It offers more than the me could ever imagine. Now, the me can be so willing to settle for very simple pleasures, let's say, half-baked pleasures. The me can be very satisfied in the moment with another experience that brings a hit. But what that me doesn't know is that right now, underneath that hit, that searching, that seeking, that longing, that you already are this effulgence, this glory, this beauty, this perfection, this divinity. And that to just broaden the perspective, to zoom out away from the limited, is to lose suffering. It's to lose the misery, and it's to gain yourself, gain the fullness of who you are, gain fearlessness, gain love that is without condition, that is without limitation, so you can be the fearless heart of love for every being in your life. You can be this beacon of loving, shining truth for every being in your life. You can love better because you're not needing to bargain with your love. You're not using it as a currency. You're not keeping it and fragmenting it and offering it by the morsel when you are given something that you deem worthy of a little morsel of your love. You're just shining as the love for all beings. And of course, in this, you're knowing yourself as this love and fullness and wholeness, that you know that you cannot be diminished. Whatever happens on the surface of life, you cannot be in lack. You cannot be without, because you are living in the innermost in of the being. And hear the fullness, hear the knowing. And so as these words come, the great beauty is that we are pointing to what is already here. And as the words come and they are received, and you can feel the resonance, it's like this gold is all around. And as we are speaking, we're like moving away the mud and the sand and the obscurations. So the shining gold, the shining clarity, the diamond-like brilliance of your own nature is being uncovered. We're just moving aside all of these obscurations. And it's spontaneous and immediate. It's not a project for the future. It's not something for the mind to say, oh, okay, these are the steps. The truth is there are no steps. There is no journey. There is no path. It's right here now. It's just to fall into yourself and allow there to be a deep enough letting go that you can feel yourself here as the being, and that you're not taking these words as a possibility for the future, that you're receiving these words and opening to see that what is being spoken, you already are here now. You are this shining love. You are this shining glory, and you already are radiant, brilliant. And where you feel the resonance of these words, it's just to fall into the resonance to fall into the resonance and remember. And the remembering is like a true empowerment. A true empowerment empowers you from being your true self, the true power, the power that can never be given away, that never was given away, the power of love, of light, of being, the power of your own wholeness that does not need or have expectations from the external, to discover that everything that you are seeking for, you already are. And so as we come to recognize this, we open to the being, and it is as the being knows itself, and in the knowing of the being, there is a flow, and it's as we recognize this flow that more of the happiness and love and joy, the more aliveness of our true nature comes in. When we first come to recognize the being, we're more noticing a deep peace. We're more noticing a simplicity, an openness, an emptiness, and a contentment, an okayness. Sometimes the question can come in, but what about the love? The love comes as we deepen into the knowing and into the flow. It's the flow that brings the love. It's the aliveness of the presence that brings the remembering of love. And it's this ability to stay open in the face of whatever life is offering that brings the love forward, because we need to be open and unprotected to recognize the love that we are, right? So our protection keeps us from the love that is our own true nature. So we have to open through our protections to even access the love that we are, to really love ourselves in a really deep, loving love kind of way, right? We have to open through so much of our own protection to access the love that we are, to access the openness of our own heart, our true heart, the infinite heart, the one heart. So we open into the being, to the peace, to the simplicity, to a contentment. And in the knowing of this, we're able more to meet life as it is. And as we face life, and we are humbled by life, and we let down the guard and the protection, more of the love that we are starts to be recognized as already being here. And as we are recognizing the being as love, that we are the love, we stop needing to get the same kind of validations and affirmations from the other beings in our lives in the same way. And this starts to shift up the relationship dynamics that we have, because we are not as entangled in the same way. Now, when the relationship dynamics start to switch up because you just don't need to be entangled, it can feel like it creates a little disturbance, because in so many relationships, there's habitual ways of relating. And when we start to shift that because we don't need in the same way, it can feel like it creates a bit of a disturbance, but it's actually freeing everyone from the tangle. It's just that some beings are more familiar with the tangle, so they would rather relate in the tangled way. But once we really open to this being and the love that we are and not needing in the same way, we can bring this love and openness to the relationship dynamics and a safety to our beloved ones that are being impacted by the ways that we are changing. Because this is how truth works. This is how love flows. It reverberates out. It wants to shine and spread all by itself. But we have to live it truly and deeply for it to be able to spread. And it will. It cannot help but spread, because this is its only function. Once love knows itself and is loving itself, its only purpose is then to love, to share itself, to share the openness, to share the light, the love, the compassion and patience, right? So as we are resting in this being and opening to the flow, and the love comes in, then we start to feel that love flowing and loving everything. Not just the beings in your life, but the being in the chair and the lamp and the trees and the bugs and the dishcloth, and goodness knows, you just start to find the holiness in everything. Can't even believe how much you love the lamp, the mug, the carpet, oh my God, the door, wow, right? Just that love, because you're meeting yourself in everything. As you know yourself as this love, and you're meeting yourself. And of course, this love is consciousness. It's alive, awake consciousness, free, consciousness that's pure and free. You start to see yourself in your essence nature, reflected in everything, in the essence of everything, right? And it's noticed as just loving everything, just finding the beauty in everything, even the things that you once wouldn't have found beauty in. You just find beauty. You see that everything is absolutely shining with its best foot forward. And there's so much patience and compassion for every being exactly where they are. Not a needing to change, not a needing to project on any ideas, but just an openness that just is, right? And this is your true nature. This is the true nature. And the more that there is a falling into this true nature, the simplicity of how this ripples out into the life. Once the perspective is shifted, the seeing from a different perspective starts to ripple out. And in a way, what really happens is the perspective just gets wider. It gets bigger. We could say that it gets wider and it gets taller, and it stretches in all directions because it's moving in this directionless opening into itself. So it's kind of gyroscopic how the opening and the aliveness is opening to meet itself. It's not linear and organized, and yet there is an incredible intelligence to it. But that intelligence means that amazingly, that every being has a unique unfolding that is exactly perfectly designed to facilitate the greater unfolding, untangling, and freedom from the enmeshment in the discordant patterns of consciousness and the collective. So the intelligence is so profound and fine-tuned. It fine-tunes the whole appearance of your life to make it out of your own consciousness so that you can see the reflection of your blind spots with the great possibility of illuminating as awareness your own blind spots wow, right? It's all an inside job. You're the awareness and you're illuminating only your own blind spots. And as you illuminate your own blind spots and have the ability to not react, not fight with yourself, not judge yourself, you have this ability as awareness to receive yourself, love yourself, see yourself in the light of awareness, and completely merge in love with yourself more deeply. And in that, the heart widens and the consciousness opens and the whole lived experience and the perspective gets bigger. But this is an infinite perspective that is opening, right? So it opens first to the cosmic universal, and then it's opening to its unity. It's opening to its oneness in all directions, right? So the opening to the universal cosmic then starts to get an even wider, taller, infinite perspective, which is just opening wherever it needs to bring in more light, more radiance, more remembering, recognition, a recognizing of yourself in and as everything, right? So consciousness is consciously opening to its own purity, its own pure, innocent, divine nature in absolutely everything. And that's where we fall in love with the table, the chair, the floor, right? Absolutely everything, the flowers, the plants, the leaves that are dead on the floor, right? All of it is just as beautiful, just as intoxicatingly wonderful as we could say we once have had preferences where we only saw the good and the beauty in these things, the things that the me likes. But as consciousness starts to open to more of its own divine nature, it sees that same beauty in a preferenceless, glorious, all-encompassing way. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't, within our unique nature, we can still play out preferences. We can still play out, well, I love the white one better than the red one, right? But at the same time, if we can't get that, we don't care, right? So we still have the ability to move in that way, but we're not attached. We're not holding on as if life depended upon it. We know that life is bigger than that life is flowing, and the love for the white one suddenly just realizes, well, I love the red one just as much, and the blue one and the green one and the pink one. Who can decide when you just love it all, right? So it's just this openness that includes everything. It's in a deep, deep way. And it's because the heart is open. It's because the protections are falling away, and access to the wide open heart is bringing forward the remembering of love, the remembering of the beauty of who you are in truth. And that same remembering is seen in absolutely everything as it starts to illuminate. Consciousness starts to illuminate everything as being the very same one. So there's this beautiful unfolding that naturally is happening according to the intelligence of consciousness. But it doesn't fit the rigid conventions that we have learned. It's different. It's very, very different. So we have to be willing to let go of all of our ideas in a limited way. We could even say of what things like integrity is, right? We have to stretch. We have to start stretching and opening beyond the conventions of the mind that believes that things have to be a certain way. And what we can be sure of is that as we open in this way, we will, in the unique, intelligent unfolding of the print, the blueprint, the discordant patterning, we will be carried through everything that is needed to challenge our beliefs and conditionings, to invite us to open, to see beyond our limited perspectives. Often the way this can happen is that we are played in ways in life that mean that we're acting out in ways that we once might have disapproved of and judged. And suddenly we recognize, oh, here I am moving in these ways. And this is how we are truly purified. We're truly purified of all of our holding patterns and beliefs and all of the ways that we can be very judgmental and righteous, self-righteous through a mental perspective. We are cured of our conditioned righteousness into true divine righteousness, which is the openness and the wideness that of love, of unconditioned love, the flow of unconditioned life that sees the one in everything. So we are carried into everything that is necessary to untangle and free the limitations and protections so that we can open to more of the natural being that we are, and we open in that to more of the love that we are. So we can fall in love, with the love of the self. We can fall in love with our own divine nature. And we are feeling the effulgence of our own fullness, our own wholeness, right? This shining richness where we recognize that we are not lacking anything in truth. So it all starts always in the being, and it ends nowhere. It's the immeasurable, infinite. It always starts in the being, but it is an infinite unfolding. And that is why the service, that is why the constant offering, that is why the pure devotion, because what else is left, right? There's nothing to achieve. There's no goal. There's this infinite unfolding and just this infinite flow of love, loving love, and the self being itself, and whatever way that it can be in service to itself, as long as the mortal incarnation, as long as the mortal frame can support that, then it will just love. It will love, and it will be, and it will move in whatever ways that it is needed to serve and shine. So it is to be the being that is here in the silence, and to shift the attention to being the being, resting in reality, and really opening so that the life can be focused upon what is truly longed for, that we can illuminate as the aware being all of the ways that we elevate and worship the Maya, the illusion, so that we can illuminate in order to reveal the stickiness of the moving, changing, knowing that essentially we cannot ever depend upon what is moving and changing. And we have this human life to depend deeply upon that which is eternal and never ending, that we can turn to depend upon that which is reliable beyond imagining, that we can turn the attention to come to know the eternal, timeless nature that ends all need for the external, that we can depend upon the self, on being the love, and in being the love, really then being the love, being the shining, wide open heart of love, being the love we are longing for, and just loving, just loving. So hear the silence, hear the stillness, hear the simplicity of being, just resting here. Where there is resonance, recognition, to just fix the gaze in that recognition, to fix the gaze on the divine, on the truth, on the love, to fix the gaze and know that here, now, fulfillment is here, that the longing leads us into the fulfillment, that the longing leads us into the pure divine wholeness through the felt sense of the longing and the not picking up anything of the world, not picking up a thing to fulfill that longing, not picking up another experience, not picking up anything of the world to fulfill the longing, and just truly falling into the longing. We fall into fulfillment in the moment, this moment, here now. It is in the letting go of the entanglement and the need, and to long, we could say, need only yourself, need only God, desire only divine wholeness. And let the prayer, the true prayer, be this silent openness that is spacious, available, and ready. Ready to be taken. Wilt thou come? Wilt thou come? Just this once, come to me. Right? You just invite into the spaciousness of being for the glory to come. Keeping the heart wide open and focused, like a constant invitation to be taken. what you find is that just the openness, just the invitation, like the true invitation, you realize that it's already here, that the fullness, the light, the love, the glory is already here in the silence, in the stillness. You already are. It's just to direct the attention, let go, and be yourself. Offer everything to that not knowing. Offer everything. And you will find that when the tendrils of seeking and entanglement are pulled out of projection and creating that world projection of my world, the falling into the being is deeper and the fulfillment is here. Just to keep inviting in what you are longing for, to make every moment a moment of invitation, of surrender, of devotion. Every moment. Seeing the light. Every moment. Inviting a clearer seeing. This too, this too, this too.